6 months ago, people were talking about him running for president. Now it's like, can he even run for governor again? Alex, stand by if you would. I want to bring in Jeff Lax tonight to talk the legal implications here, what we could see next. He's an attorney and law professor at the City University of New York. Jeff, I was a bit confused, to tell you the truth, when Letitia James said, I'm not referring this out for criminality. Do you think a prosecutor will charge Cuomo? What would that look like?
He's in a whole lot of legal trouble, Chance. Yeah, the most serious, obviously, are the criminal implications. Under New York law, there's a criminal statute called forcible touching. To me, that's the one that's the most serious and possibly the most applicable and scary from his perspective. And that is just what it sounds like. It's touching someone in an intimate area, obviously without their permission, and it carries serious penalties. Not only does it carry, it's a misdemeanor, it's a Class A misdemeanor that is up to a year in prison, but more than that, you also have to register as a sex offender.
Is there a statute of limitations on that?
That's a very interesting question, Chance, because Cuomo was at the forefront of extending the statute of limitations in New York State. He signed a law in 2019 actually extending the rape statutes, the sexual assault statutes, and also the sexual harassment statutes, because he's also in civil trouble and he may be sued for sexual harassment. And he actually extended the law that could do him in, because previously it was only 1 year. And he extended it to 3 years, and another law he extended from 1 year to 2. So that's going to increase the pool of women who could potentially come after him.
Got it. Got it. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, based on the Attorney General here, explain the difference between civil and criminal aspects of this case, if you would.
Well, the victims can certainly sue, assuming they're within the statute of limitations period. In terms of sexual harassment, they could sue for damages, which is classically money damages. But in terms of the criminal statute, obviously, he could go to prison. It's a misdemeanor, but I would say it's the most serious kind of misdemeanor where, like I said, you have to register as a sex offender. And obviously, that's not something anybody wants to have tagged onto them for the rest of their lives, which it would be.
Alex, I want to get you back in here right now because the governor, if he did break federal and state laws, which, again, he says he didn't, what happens? Because it's kind of sounded today when the AG was talking like the end rather than the beginning.
Yeah, well, she said that basically her hands are tied at this point because it's a civil investigation. She said that it's up to other prosecutors if they want to take on this case. The Albany County DA already says that he is asking for the investigative materials on this. He wants the women to come forward if they feel comfortable talking to him. Cuomo, though, in his rebuttal, saying that this is basically a political hit job. Listen.
Trial by newspaper or biased reviews are not the way to find the facts in this matter. I welcome the opportunity for a full and fair review before a judge and a jury, because this just did not happen.
You know, it's almost like Letitia James knew this was going to come. In her press conference before, she said that that's basically why she hired those investigators, so it wouldn't be a political investigation.
And Jeff, one more question here. You kind of hear the governor alluding to this. A jury would have to find him guilty. Some of these are difficult because there weren't more people in the room, although there were contemporaneous text messages being sent and things like that. Is this a PR problem primarily for Cuomo, or is this a more serious legal problem now?
You're absolutely right. There was only one other person in the room in most of these situations, most likely, but Cuomo just added a person to the room. You know, there's an old saying, Chance, that lawyers are their own worst client. And what Cuomo did in speaking out there, all he did is hurt himself. Either he got terrible advice from his attorneys, or he ignored his attorneys, which I think is the most likely aspect of this, because he said some things that were so damning. And one thing I promise you, Chance, if these ever go to trial, and like you said, it could be a civil trial, could be a criminal trial, he could be facing impeachment. I promise you this, the jury in all those cases, including the impeachment, will be seeing that video played over and over and over. Because he said a lot of very damning things. He admitted to a lot of the physical actions, but tried to justify them. And he didn't come off well. And that's why attorneys always tell you, be very careful and usually don't testify in your defense.
Yeah, they usually tell you zip it until you get to court if you wind up there.
Yep.
Jeff Lax, Alex Miller, thank you both so much.